What if I told you there was a cover-up so massive, so unbelievable, that if it ever became public, it would rewrite everything we think we know about human potential? What if right now on this planet, there are people who can do things that Western science has no framework to explain? Individuals who are telekinetic, who can move objects without touching them, who can see through walls, read sealed documents, and identify hidden items with no sensory input, who can teleport small objects through solid glass, who can diagnose illness without machines, influence biological systems with intention, and even perceive events happening miles away. And what if all of this wasn't fringe or rumor or myth, but has been openly studied, documented, and talked about all in one place on Earth? Very few people outside China have any idea what goes on behind that digital curtain. Mainland China operates within its own sealed off internet, a closed ecosystem protected by some of the most sophisticated filters, firewalls, and state oversight on the planet. Information flows in tightly controlled channels. Content is curated, censored, or removed. Entire global platforms don't exist there. And for those of us in the West, our perception of China comes through layers of distance, censorship, and geopolitical tension, and media bias. We see fragments, headlines, narratives shaped by politics, but very rarely the full picture. So when China publicly studied the extraordinary, the rest of the world never heard about it. And yet, throughout the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, China openly conducted research into extraordinary human functions. These were not secret cults or fringe mystics or isolated villages. These were state-sanctioned experiments, government programs, national research institutes, military-backed investigations. University labs published results in Chinese scientific journals. They involved known, documented individuals, psychic children, anomalous healers, qigong practitioners, and individuals capable of psychokinesis and clairvoyance. And most famously, a young man named Zhang Baosheng, who became a national phenomenon. These extraordinary abilities were observed openly by a wide range of people: police officers, party officials, government scientists, military personnel, doctors, journalists, and ordinary civilians that all took part in the studies. Many of them walked in as skeptics, prepared to debunk what they assumed were exaggerated claims. But after witnessing pills pass through sealed bottles, children reading without using their eyes, objects vanishing and reappearing across the room, or individuals diagnosing illnesses without instruments, a surprising pattern emerged. The skeptics quickly became believers. These were eyewitness accounts from individuals trained to be precise, rational, and alert to deception. And across thousands of observations, they all described the same kinds of phenomenon: teleportation, clairvoyance, psychokinesis, remote healing, and object translocation that seemed to unfold as naturally as breathing. Now in the West, declassified documents revealed that the CIA themselves admitted remote viewing produced accurate information beyond chance. So in other words, in the West, this was also discovered. However, it was just chosen not to tell the public. China, on the other hand, studied these abilities openly. But China's openness came with a condition: control. The government encouraged psychic research, yes, but only within the structures it governed. Many of the individuals with extraordinary abilities were quietly absorbed into military programs, studied as potential assets in intelligence, perception, influence, or even battlefield awareness. China has always understood the strategic implications of human consciousness. But where did all this begin? China in the late 1980s was a nation undergoing rapid transformation, politically, economically, and culturally. But amid the sweeping reforms and industrial acceleration, another quieter revolution was unfolding, tucked away in research institutes, conference rooms, and government training centers. It was a revolution of the mind. And at its center were individuals whose abilities seemed to defy the known laws of physics, biology, and common human experience. On the cold morning of January 3rd, 1987, a group of provincial-level party officials and scholars gathered inside the Central Committee Training Center in Beijing. It was an environment designed for discipline and political education: neat rows of seating, polished floors, and the muted hum of fluorescent lights. But on this particular day, something unusual filled the room: a sense of anticipation that blended curiosity, skepticism, and a hint of unease. At the front of the room sat a long table draped in white cloth. On it rested a small, clear bottle of medicine pills, sealed tight with a cork and encased in an unbroken band of plastic. One by one, the officials approached it, examining every detail. They tapped the glass, tugged at the plastic, and inspected the cork for any signs of tampering. Everything was intact. Only when they were satisfied did they give a nod to the facilitator overseeing the demonstration. The facilitator turned to a young man standing quietly off to the side. He stepped forward. His demeanor was relaxed, almost casual, as though what was about to happen was nothing extraordinary. He looked at the bottle, closed his eyes for a moment, and began to focus. The room fell silent. Then, without anyone touching the container, something remarkable began to unfold. A pill appeared on the table, just inches from the sealed bottle. Then another, then another. Officials leaned forward, blinking in disbelief. The bottle remained sealed, untouched, and yet the pills were emerging as if slipping through solid matter. By the time the phenomenon stopped, 44 pills had been transported out of the bottle. The observers were stunned. Some whispered to one another, others scribbled feverishly in their notebooks. A few simply sat frozen, searching for explanations that did not come. Now, some might think this was a magic show or a staged performance. According to the witnesses, it was a controlled demonstration conducted in a government facility supervised by party officials trained to be vigilant, disciplined, and detailed-oriented. And yet they could offer no conventional explanation for what they had just seen. This was the world that China was stepping into. A world where extraordinary abilities, once the stuff of folklore and legend, were being investigated with the sanction of the state. And no figure embodied this era more completely than Zhang Baosheng. His name circulated through research circles, government offices, and living rooms across the country. To some, he was a prodigy. To others, a mystery. To officials, he became something of a national asset, an emblem of China's exploration into what they called exceptional human functions, or EHF for short. Zhang was young, mischievous, and startlingly gifted. He had a playful nature that contrasted sharply with the seriousness with which officials evaluated his abilities. Descriptions from those who met him paint him as someone who seemed to carry an invisible secret, as though the rules governing the physical world applied to everyone except him. Stories about his demonstrations spread rapidly. Pills passing through sealed glass containers, objects vanishing from a person's pocket only to reappear in another room, documents receiving marks or signatures without being physically touched. Each account was stranger than the last, yet all were reported by individuals who had reputations to protect: scholars, police officers, scientists, and government cadres. In one of the most frequently retold anecdotes, Zhang was sitting in a government vehicle alongside several officers. The car was making its way through the city when Zhang shifted in his seat, patting his pockets. "My coins," he said, "they're gone." The officers looked at him in confusion, unsure how to respond. But moments later, the chauffeur, who had been quietly focused on the road, reached into his own pocket. The coins were there. There had been no movement or sleight of hand. Zhang hadn't planted anything. The coins had simply relocated, through some means invisible to everyone present. For officials accustomed to dealing with material matters of state, experiences like these were not just surprising, but destabilizing. They forced questions that most people never have to confront. What is the nature of matter? What are the limits of human consciousness? And what if those limits are far wider than anyone realized? Interest in Zhang wasn't limited to scientists and government researchers though. News of his abilities spread through writers, journalists, and public figures. One of them was Cheng Yao, a celebrated novelist from Taiwan, known across the Chinese-speaking world. Her relatives, hearing rumors of Zhang's astonishing talents, begged her to arrange a meeting, but meeting him was not so simple. Political tensions between Taiwan and mainland China complicated everything. Travel was tightly controlled, interactions monitored, and the movement of influential individuals was often layered with security considerations. Yet, curiosity prevailed, and after navigating a series of bureaucratic challenges, Cheng Yao eventually secured an opportunity to encounter the young psychic for herself. And what she saw left her shaken. Her account describes not a performer seeking attention, but a youth whose abilities seemed to operate effortlessly. Objects responded to him as though the boundaries between physical matter and intention were thinner and more permeable. For Cheng Yao, the experience felt like stepping out of the familiar world of literature and imagination and into something concrete, a reality where the extraordinary was real. She returned home with stories that spread quickly throughout her circles. Zhang became a figure whispered about everywhere, even debated in academic departments. Was he an evolutionary anomaly? A new kind of human? A glimpse into capacities that lay dormant in all of us? Meanwhile, within China's scientific community, the discussion took on an even more structured form. Researchers and officials began grouping these abilities under the EHF term. It was terminology chosen carefully. intended to distance the phenomenon from superstition while preserving the possibility of legitimacy. By framing the psychic abilities as potentially measurable and repeatable functions, the government aimed to place the conversation within the boundaries of scientific inquiry. Zhang's status grew. He was monitored closely, protected, and occasionally showcased to visitors. Yet he was also handled with caution. His abilities attracted attention, but they also attracted controversy. Some saw him as proof of hidden human potential. Others worried about the implications. What if these abilities could be weaponized, or misinterpreted, or cause instability to the status quo? But for the general public, the fascination was simple. People were drawn to the wonder of it all. In an era before smartphones and social media and constant entertainment, stories of a young man who could move objects with his mind or pass pills through sealed glass had a magnetic quality. They felt like glimpses of a world beyond the everyday grind, a reminder that the universe might be holding secrets still waiting to be uncovered. By the late 1980s, Zhang Baosheng had become the most famous psychic in China, among many. He became a symbol of a national curiosity, a representation of what might be possible if human consciousness extended further than anyone previously imagined. His life unfolded at the intersection of belief and skepticism, science and mystery, politics and the unknown, and as the government continued to investigate psychic phenomenon, Zhang remained at the center of everything. A young man whose abilities seemed to point towards a different frontier, one not defined by technology or machinery, but by the untapped capacities of the human mind. And this is only the beginning of our remarkable exploration. For now though, if you'd like to learn more, you can read all about it in the book, China's Super Psychics. Link in the description. Have fun. This is a short film about the activation of the pineal gland, the third eye. It is especially relevant to us today, as through practices such as meditation and even sacred plant medicine ceremonies, people all over the world are beginning to have powerful spiritual visions of higher worlds. Without further ado, enjoy the activation.
Near the center of the brain, we find a tiny pine cone-shaped gland, which may be one of the most wondrous parts of our physical body. We know that the pineal gland produces serotonin and melatonin, neurotransmitters which regulate waking and sleeping cycles, as well as playing a crucial role in mood. But it may also be true that the pineal produces DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, a neurotransmitter which creates a natural psychedelic state of consciousness. If so, then this little gland plays not only a crucial role in our psychological well-being, but it may hold the key for unlocking the true potential of humanity.
In this gland, there is floating water, a reservoir of water, with crystals that actually have piezoelectric properties. There's also another thing called piezoluminescence. If you have a little lighter and you hit the lighter and then you get that little spark that comes out, that's from a crystal being compressed. And as the crystal is compressed, it releases photons. In your brain, you have these little floating crystals that actually have that quality. And even better than that is there is another characteristic called piezochromism. Piezochromatic crystals are crystals that can release any color of light in the rainbow. Dimethyltryptamine is the main chemical that seems to do this. When DMT is chipped out of a tray that it was synthesized in, you hit it with a screwdriver, bam, you get these big bursts of colored light. Big burst of red, big burst of green, big burst of yellow, big burst of blue. Well, you have these little crystals floating in your brain.
DMT is this, dimethyltryptamine. It's what the theory is that it's what's released by the pineal gland that gives us these elevated states of insight.
Maybe DMT is the lens of our pineal gland, allowing us to see wider areas of reality than are normally accessible to our senses.
You remember that image of like a Buddha with the halo? There's always a halo around the Buddha's head, or Jesus. People say there's a cross behind him in that halo, but it's the beams of light. It's exactly what you can learn or remember to activate.
Many ancient esoteric traditions and mystical schools knew of the potential of the pineal. The ancient Greeks believed it to be our connection to the realms of thought. Buddhists know it as a symbol of spiritual awakening. In Hinduism, the pineal connects with the third eye chakra, the seat of intuition and clairvoyance. Jesus proclaimed that the eye is the lamp of the body, so then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. If Rene Descartes is right, and the pineal gland is indeed the seat of the human soul, then these traditions are correct in believing that it serves as the connecting link between the physical and spiritual worlds.
How did they know about the third eye? Because each chakra connects in to an organ. So what fascinates me is the sixth chakra plugs into the pineal gland. The pineal gland has photoreceptors on it. And yet they knew that thousands of years ago before they ever knew that there were photoreceptors on the pineal. So that to me, it shows you that we know a lot more in the past than we even do now with our technology.
The pineal gland is lined on the inside with tissue called pinealocytes. These pinealocytes are similar to the rods and cones in the retina of your eye. That's right, it's the third eye. Your brain has a third eye in the center, and it has retinal tissue. It also has the same wiring as your physical eyes do to the visual cortex in your brain. How did they know that all the way back then? That would imply very advanced technology that would have been required for them to gain such incredible information about the brain. And yet they did. And so think about what that means. If you have little crystals that can vibrate and release all the colors of the rainbow, and people claim when they go out of body or have a near-death experience that they see a silver cord. There is a cord linking their astral body to their physical body.
Indeed, it appears that the pineal gland is our connection to higher dimensions, giving us access to the psychic and spiritual realms. If this is true, then humanity is upon the precipice of a greater awakening as a whole. But this awakening does not come without its challenges and oppositions.
It's well known that fluoride interferes with functioning of your endocrine system, the glands. These glands are the gateways to spiritual connection, to energetic layers. And I think what's really going on here is that fluoride shuts the door to spiritual connection.
So if you kind of keep the brain locked down, whether it's fluoride in the water, shut down the pineal, aluminum to disrupt the nervous system, you know, these artificial sweeteners, then we're just in a pen.
We clearly are not as aware as we could be of our potential and are not living a life that probably is as healing or as generous or as nurturing as we're capable of doing.
This is why you get so many people today who are somehow convinced, and mainstream science is teaching this, that you are nothing but a biological skin bag, and that you do not have any existence beyond the physical. You have no consciousness, you have no spirit, no free will, and when you die, you're dead and gone, and that's permanent. That's a very dangerous philosophy.
And we are dealing with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ADHD, all of these neurological diseases. And so I think there's a concerted effort to dumb down the population so that when they figure these things out, they're paralyzed and don't know what to do, don't know how to respond, or simply can't grasp the concept that it is happening, which is the bigger picture.
In the book of Revelation, people that have the mark of the beast on the forehead, that's the closed down pineal gland, the closed down third eye that prevents them from having access to the cosmic nature of who they are, and that will be transformed. That's a very important part of what's going on here. Spiritual death is transformed into enlightenment, and it will happen in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye.
Despite exposure to toxins in our environment and various chemicals in our heavily processed diets, humanity is still awakening. Every day, the light of a new eon shines upon us, bringing with it an unexpected source of enlightenment.
What people don't realize is that your consciousness is governed by light, and the pineal gland is the center of consciousness.
The brain chemistry works in accordance with this. So when you wake up in the morning and the receptors in the back of your eye pick up light, the moment that happens, your optic nerve sends a signal to the pineal gland, and the pineal gland starts making serotonin. And serotonin is the daytime neurotransmitter.
This is all brain chemistry. Light hits your eyes, hits the pineal gland, changes chemicals inside your brain. Serotonin suddenly erupts in your brain. You get happy. That's all part of consciousness, and it's all guided by the sun.
The energy of the earth is higher than it was in 2012, and it will continue to increase. All of the solar storms that are bombarding our Earth has been proven to create psychoactive experience.
And so the color of light changes your consciousness. And if the sun is changing, then it's possible that our consciousness is changing.
And it's all, I believe, part of this greater awakening that we're going through at this time. This pineal gland activation, you could call it that. You could call it the coming golden age. You could call it the energetic shift that we're going through at this time.
It could be that the changing nature of the sun over the last 20 years is what's causing the great awakening that's happening.
I take the same data that the universities have garnered and draw a different conclusion. Their conclusion may be that an anionic ratio change creates hallucinations. Therefore, the hallucinations are not real. I take those studies and say that the anionic ratio change opens doors within the pineal and allows us to have multi-dimensional experiences.
Knowing that the pineal gland plays a key role to our spiritual evolution, we must undertake the noble effort to make sure our third eye stays open so that we stay connected with the higher realms of being.
There is a misconception, I think, for many people that the human auric field is automatically managed. It is not. It requires maintenance, and there are keys and responsibilities to maintaining our auric field.
That's why people that are older are like, they lose a bit the joie de vivre, you know, they lose a bit the joy of life. So what you can learn very simply by realizing that all that is in your body and that you can reconnect to it is that you will start to create alpha waves. That's the first step. Then if you've learned how to create these alpha waves, then you can realign all the rest of your head. You know, your pineal gland, your pineal chakra, your pituitary chakra. You can realign everything, and then actually you can open up your third eye. You can reactivate these beams of light. You'll be much more psychic, so telepathic. You'll receive more, you'll be much more sensitive. So in the beginning you get this blast. You're like, whoa, you know, the world is opening up. But after a while, you will just get used to it. It will be normal. So in day-to-day life, yes, it's useful. At the same time, it will become normal.
For the first time in history, humanity as a whole is being presented with the opportunity to unlock the dormant potential that's swirling inside each of us. By avoiding toxins, getting sunlight, and undertaking various forms of meditation, one may improve the overall performance of this tiny little gland.
When exploring the light body, one of the first things you might learn is actually about auras. In New Age circles, auras are usually thought to be a kind of energy that emits from your body and follows the same frequency pattern as the chakras, where the root is the smallest body, the physical form, and then the sacral body, solar body, heart body, and so on radiate outwardly around you. Many people claim to see auras, and there are actually techniques that may help you to do so, including unfocusing your eyes on a person or even just putting a hand in front of a black screen. It's not uncommon to see either a colored or white glow around the object of your focus. The aura system mirrors the chakra system almost identically because in a way, it's part of the same system. The aura reflects your energy body on the outside, just as your chakras reflect your energy body on the inside. However, both of these systems weave together to create the human light body. Much like how when you put the 7 colors together in light, you get pure white light. The thing is, there are actually many different types of light bodies, reflecting different geometries that can be necessary for different purposes. The most commonly discussed one is the star tetrahedron, but you can have a light body based on any of the platonic solids. And then there is even the Covenant 486 Merkaba, which is said to be the root of the Tree of Life system itself. For the purposes of simplicity, today we're going to be exploring the original Merkaba that we learned, which is a great place to get started. But before we jump into anything else, there's something we must know. No matter how much you try to understand the light body, Merkabas and chakras through the sacred geometry and logical explanations, it will never be enough on its own. As Drunvalo has explained, there is a missing half of our understanding that is purely experiential and can only be experienced through your own practice when centered with love. As we understand it, the Merkaba is the divine light vehicle used by ascended masters to connect with and reach the higher realms. It is the full extent of our energetic and subtle body that when fully active encompasses our whole self and can stretch out to anywhere between 55 and 72 feet. This particular one is based on the blueprints of Metatron's cube and the tetrahedral energy field, taking the shape of two counter-rotating tetrahedrons spinning around the body in line with the chakras up the spine as the axis. And though while it may look like there's only 2 star tetrahedrons, there's actually 3, but the third is overlaid onto the others and is often forgotten about in the meditations. The Merkaba is an extension of our energy field, or our collective energy field, that acts as a vehicle which allows us to move through the different dimensions and frequencies all around us. The word itself actually comes from the Hebrew word that means chariot or cart, and forms a huge part of Ezekiel's vision in the tradition of Merkaba mysticism. In the book of Ezekiel, the Merkaba is used to refer to the throne chariot of God, the 4-wheeled vehicle driven by 4 cherubim, each of which has 4 wings and 4 faces, of a man, lion, ox, and eagle, often which are esoterically seen as reflections of the 4 elements. For the most part, the teachings of the Merkaba mysteries revolved around the visions of the prophet, which were centered around stories of ascension and people transcending the physical world into the realm of God. Some writers have even argued that early Christian theology and discourse was influenced by the Jewish Merkaba tradition to some extent. In fact, some see the accounts of St. Paul, who has been argued to be influenced by Gnosticism, to be one of the earliest first accounts that we have of a Merkaba mystic in Jewish or Christian literature. Throughout Kabbalistic history though, discussions concerning the Merkaba were limited to only the most worthy sages, as it was considered overzealous to ponder on the nature of higher worlds and what they looked like. In more modern teachings, Melchizedek tells us that the Merkaba can be recreated through conscious breathing and meditations in as little as 18 breaths. The first 6 are for balancing the polarity, the next 7 are for proper pranic flow through the entire body, and the final breaths are from shifting the consciousness from 3rd to 4th dimension, and then finally, the last 3 breaths are for recreating the rotating Merkaba within and around the body. The meditation has a lot of parts though, and while we may animate it one day, if you want to walk through, you can check out Drunvalo Melchizedek's Flower of Life, Volume 2. Ultimately, the first step to creating and remembering your Merkaba is always love. And even Melchizedek explains that a lot of people don't need all of the left brain steps because the right brain, the experience of love, is enough to activate it naturally. To be clear, there are different kinds of Merkabas out there, absolutely. In fact, in one particular plant medicine ceremony at Rhythmia, Thoth appeared in my inner vision and shared with me a different Merkaba than I'd ever seen before. It was octagonal in nature, surrounding my body with a 3-stranded DNA helix spiraling through it, and a tremendous volume of rainbow particles shooting out of the bottom and rising up to the top. Wild stuff. That said, I know we talk about the importance of love in this kind of stuff a lot, but it really is the most vital part. Love and connection are the very life and heart of the Merkaba and light body that supports the chakras, as love is said to be the frequency of creation itself. To that end, the Merkaba isn't just a tool or some aspect of you, it is alive and fully a part of you. It's no different than how you have a nose or an arm. The Merkaba light body is what lays the blueprints for the nadis and the axiotonal lines that we've talked about before. It literally is the lines that allow the prana, chi, and energy to flow back into you and out into the universe. Our Merkaba is our connection to the divine. It's what links us to each other and the universe itself. So how does the Merkaba light body relate to the chakras exactly? Well, the 8 chakras that run through our spine actually have duplicates in the space around our body, inside the extended Merkabic field. They're said to look like spheres of energy that vary in size depending on your own size and height, the same as the Merkaba itself. Like the energetic flow system mentioned earlier, they're laid out in the blueprint of Metatron's cube. Each sphere sits on the edge or point of a tetrahedron and are kind of like our chakras twins. And Melchizedek said he was actually able to find a record of them using a molecular emission scanner. So when it comes down to it, you can think of our spiritual structure like this. First, there is the energy flow through the chakras, which is facilitated by the nadis when we breathe in and out. From there, the meridian points and lesser chakras reach every cell in the body. On top of that, we have the prana field, which is very close to the body and is generated by the flow of energy through the chakras. Going up in layers, on top of the pranic field, we have the auric field that extends a few feet around us in every direction and is generated by our thoughts and emotions and energy all working together. Guiding and protecting our auric field is another energy field in the shape of the egg of life, the original shape of creation. Once you get past that, You start to get into the realms of light and geometry, and our energy takes on a much more geometric nature that can be influenced by our consciousness. Herein we find the light body, yet these geometries are overlaid across and through all of our lesser systems, much like how streams branching off from a river will be like a smaller fractal of the greater body from which it comes. When you bridge your newly mastered lower centers with the previously unknown higher centers, and when you're willing to step through that doorway into what's next, everything in your life has the capacity to change as you step into the life of an empowered creator, creating creation with all that is.
You are not a human being with a soul. You are a soul that temporarily inhabits a physical body. Astral projection is probably one of the coolest things you will ever experience. Imagine this scenario. You're lying in your bed, eyes shut, completely relaxed and totally awake. After a few minutes, you feel your body becoming heavy and numb, and then you start rising up, floating a few feet above your bed. You look down and find that your physical body is sleeping peacefully on the bed. You notice that there's a glowing, pulsating bluish-white cord connected to your physical body. You are calm, relaxed, and awake. This is not a new experience for you, and you feel a blissful sensation of peace because you are now unchained from your physical shell. You are experiencing a joyous feeling of exhilaration and freedom from bounds. You look around the room and see that everything seems to sparkle. Everything seems to have life, more vibrant. You fly through the ceiling and into the sky and look down at your house becoming smaller and smaller. And soon you can see the curvature of the earth. You think of a friend of yours who lives across the world in Sweden. By thinking about him, you consciously go to him and you zoom across the world, and soon you're coming down into a house. You see your friend eating cookies at his computer. He's wearing blue jeans and a white t-shirt. Soon you realize it's time for you to go back, and you think about your sleeping body. You find yourself back over your house, slowly moving down into your bedroom, and then back into your sleeping body. You wake up and go to your computer. Your friend is on Skype and you tell him what you just saw in your dream. Your friend gapes in amazement. "That's absolutely right," he says. My friends, welcome to the world of astral projection. Astral projection is a phenomenon that is becoming rapidly more popular in the last 20 years, and even more so in the last 5. It is a process by which the human consciousness temporarily leaves the physical body and functions independently, while the physical body remains still and passive throughout. This results in observing the world from a point of view other than that of the physical body, and by means other than those of the physical senses. While astral projecting, however, you retain a very high level of waking consciousness during the experience, and can remember the event in every detail upon returning to the physical body. For many people, this happens randomly while asleep, becoming conscious in the middle of a dream. If you haven't, odds are somebody you know has. This is a very common experience, which is also known as lucid dreaming or out-of-body experience, OBE for short. This may sound crazy, but it really isn't. It's just relatively outside of the average human consciousness. In fact, we all experience this out-of-body state every night when we sleep. Most of these projections are unconscious because we are not trained to remember them. We'll be talking more about that in a bit. Astral travel was also known about in ancient times. The Egyptians called this their light body, Ka. They left inscriptions and drawings on rock walls depicting the soul leaving the human body. The Tibetans called it a double body, which housed the soul. Many Greek philosophers like Plato, Herodotus, and Hermotimus all talked about this as well. It's even written about in the Bible, for example, in the Apocalypse of John, and as well as the Epistles of Paul and Tarsus. Reports confirm that at least 1 in 10 people have experienced a conscious OBE, either spontaneous or controlled. Spontaneous OBEs can occur at any time, while sleeping, during sickness, under medication, during an accident, or even while meditating. Controlled is like it sounds, willingly leaving the body. Before we continue, let's talk a little more about dimensions that we established an understanding of in Lesson 7. The dimension I'd like to talk about in specific is the 4th dimension, which is also generally referred to as the astral realm. Those who have visited the astral typically find themselves in an environment where all senses seem greatly magnified. These senses are not our normal physical senses, but inner astral senses. Thoughts can actually be seen to take shape instantly, and anything desired can be manifested by means of the powers of the imagination in the very process of creation. It is the ultimate place for true creation to take place, because you are only limited by yourself in what you can create. The astral plane vibrates at a much higher frequency than the physical plane. There is no gravity, or at least if there is, you're not bound by it. You're existing in these higher dimensions all at once, though less in the higher ones than here. In Lesson 1, we talked about the thought realm. At that time, I couldn't really say 4th dimension, it would have made no sense. But ultimately, that's where your thoughts are manifested. Even right now, as you're watching this, you're manifesting thoughts or ideas into this realm. From my understanding, emotions manifest on the 5th dimension, or it could be the 6th, as they are much more powerful. When you visit the astral realm, you'll learn that it's basically divided into 3 sections. This spans across different dimensional overtones that we covered previously. They're usually just called lower, middle, or higher astral planes. The difference is their vibratory frequency. The lower astral plane is vibrating at a very low frequency. It's relatively dark and more primal. Some have described it as the places of Dante's Inferno, and others think of it as purgatory. Many lost souls reside here, but it's usually also where people go when they're dreaming, as well as where you're exploring when you are astral projecting, unless you know how to raise your own frequencies into higher realms. It takes a long time to get there though. The middle realm is a plane full of double rainbows of vivid colors and exquisite beauty. It would be impossible to try and rationalize this place. Everything, including inanimate objects, have auras of energy emanating from them. Time is a great illusion to us, and in these realms, time will seem distorted. Many people have said that they are able to perceive past and future events. The higher astral planes are called the heavens by the Christians, and the Summerland by the spiritualists. This place is beyond comprehension for most people, but it is a very pure, angelic realm. In fact, this is where the angels reside. Oh yes, angels are real. Remember when I said you were existing on higher dimensions as well? Well, angels would be a part of your higher self. To this day, all over the world, people report of being visited by angels. This is where they're from. As the dimensional levels go higher and higher, less and less has been documented. For few people have actually been there to write about them, and even those who have a hard time putting such experiences into human words. So, let's talk about some benefits of astral travel. First-hand experience gives us the unique opportunity to experience and explore beyond the limits of our physical senses. It gives us the ability to obtain first-hand knowledge of our existence. Recalling past lives. We learn more about ourselves by understanding our past lives. Most people on Earth have been reincarnating over and over for the past 13,000 years since the to-be-discussed fall I mentioned in Lesson 7. As we project more and more, we begin to have healthy recollections of past lives. Identify reasons for existence. You may even recall the purpose that you came to this lifetime on Earth for. This information can help us get to know ourselves better, overcome traumas, self-cure certain illnesses, and expand our sense of fraternity and universalism. Remember, you don't have a purpose except the one you give yourself. Do you remember what that purpose was? Flight. Probably the best part about astral projection. I've only had 4 or 5 out-of-body experiences personally, but in all of them, I just ended up flying around. One time, I even flew through space. In the astral, even the sky isn't the limit. You can glide through the air like a balloon, or Superman around the world at breakneck speeds. I can't stress enough how fun this is. If you're gonna astral project, you'll probably just want to fly all the time. Meeting guides. You can meet up with your non-physical guides. They have had many names throughout history. Your higher self, your guides, your mentors, guardian angels, or simply your helpers. One time I was in meditation and I asked my guides to help me with astral projection, and they told me that they were helping, but I would still have to leave my body consciously on my own. Damn spirit guides. I wanted them to just pull me out. Other benefits also include overall well-being, a reduction in hostility, increased psychic abilities, accelerated personal development, inner calmness, an increased quest for answers, an increased respect and zest for life, meeting deceased loved ones, increased intelligence and memory recall, increased knowledge and wisdom, witnessing other realities, increased self-responsibility, increased spirituality, healing, and the biggest one of all, an understanding of life after death. Through astral projection, individuals are provided with irrefutable personal evidence that we are immortal. The physical body can die, but the consciousness lives forever. It reassures us that there is a life after death. People who have even one OBE are generally transformed, having a much greater faith in existence beyond the physical. Fear of death is just fear of the unknown. Once you separate from your body, you absolutely know that you continue after death. Dying may not be a scary experience, but rather a wondrous, spiritual adventure into the next realm of being. Death is something to be embraced with excitement and anticipation when the time arrives. That's key, by the way. When the time arrives. I'm not advocating you kill yourself, especially at this point in human history. You're gonna want to be around for what's happening. On that topic, it's time to talk about heaven and hell. When you astral project, one of the first things you realize is that you are in control of your reality, more instantly than on the physical. If you want to fly, you fly. If you want some kind of flying car, you can materialize it right in front of you. Though I'm not sure why you'd need it. The concept of heaven and hell came from this understanding. When you die, you return to the 4th dimension. If you're a good person, you will create a good reality. Good people create good afterlife in higher dimensions. Then they will hang around in that realm for however long they want, and eventually, if they choose to, return to Earth and start a new lifetime. If you are a bad person, full of hatred or fear or anger, you will also return to this 4th dimension, but you will create a reality full of hatred and fear and anger. Ultimately, heaven and hell are the same place, and it's what you create it to be. For the record, this is how it works in the physical realm as well. We talked about this in Lesson 1. You create your own reality. It's just in this dimension, the process is very slow because everything is more dense. You're bound by your physical body. The silver cord that I mentioned earlier, by the way, is the cord that tethers your physical body to your spirit. It connects when your soul connects to the physical body, and when you are astral projecting, it tethers your spirit to your body and you can see it, but you can't break it. The cord only breaks when you die. Everyone who has ever consciously astral projected will see this cord. It can stretch to infinity and will make sure that no matter how far you go, you can always return to your body. Dreaming! What are dreams? Well, when you're asleep, you are out of body. Your physical body needs rest, but your consciousness, your spirit, does not. So your consciousness returns to higher levels of being for the night. You do this every night. Remember, in higher dimensions, you can create any experience for yourself instantly. Dreams are simply you just creating experiences for yourself out of memories or thoughts or emotions that you have. Usually while you're dreaming, you're functioning at a very low level of consciousness. You're not trained to remember and consciously experience these realities you're creating, so dreams seem kind of hazy. So when you have a dream and you're pondering the meaning, just ask yourself, why did I give myself that experience? Some have said in these higher realms they could perceive the past and future. Perhaps this is why sometimes we have dreams of things that happen a week later. Scientist Stephen LaBerge has actually proven that the phenomena known as lucid dreaming is real. Lucid dreaming and astral projection are actually the exact same thing. Many mainstream scientists will say that astral projection is unproven. However, now we've proven lucid dreaming to be real, so naturally, if you accept lucid dreaming, you have to accept astral projection as well. So what's the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projection? Well, lucid dreaming is becoming conscious while asleep, already out of body. Astral projection is consciously leaving the body, going straight from a waking state to an out-of-body state. There are two primary ways of communicating with beings of higher consciousness. One is through astral projection, where you leave your physical body and communicate to them in person. The other method involves having a being come to Earth and communicate through a trained person, and this is called channeling. Channeling is a natural form of communication between humans and beings of higher consciousness, included but not limited to angelic beings, spirits of nature, non-physical entities, or even animals and pets. In a sense, it's basically when a human will turn him or herself into kind of like a phone for beings of higher consciousness and people to communicate. A channeler can choose who or what they want to channel. As long as the other party has an interest in communicating, the link is made and the channeling can begin. Now don't worry, there's no possession or anything harmful taking place here. The body is still under the complete control of the channeler, but the channeler and spirit are communicating through thought. Messages are communicated on levels of emotion and thought rather than spoken word. The channeler will then decipher what the spirit tells him into human language. Contrary to popular belief, entities do not generally use human languages because it is considered awkward and clumsy. The majority of this message is conveyed through an elegant series of sensory feelings. Let's talk about animal communication, because this is a form of channeling that you yourself can do. Channeling pets is one of the easiest forms of this art. Pets, of course, do not use human language, but they have a strong desire to communicate with humans. A small disclaimer, if you're planning on trying this, it's also helpful to charge your third eye chakra, as we talked about in lesson 2. It will assist with your mental connection to them. You'll want to practice on a family pet before taking a leap to anything else. A cat or dog who is familiar with you is the best choice to begin. Cats are a tad more difficult because they tend to pick and choose what they want to listen to. A family dog can be easier as they are pack animals and will be more apt to tune into the leader of the pack, which is you. So let's go over some of the basic steps to do this. Start by taking your dog into a quiet room. Sit on the floor next to him, or if he's allowed on the couch or bed, have him sit next to you. Pet him in his favorite spot until he's settled in. Then start talking quietly to him in a loving tone. Find one short sentence or word and use it over and over. You could say, hey there sweetie, or okay buddy. Let's just call this your key phrase. When you've gone over your key phrase 10 times or so, close your eyes and be silent. Stop petting him and begin to form a picture in your mind of what you want him to know. You may have to practice visualizations if you haven't ever done this before. After the picture is formed and clear, float the image out of your forehead where your third eye is located and into your dog's head directly between the eyes. Once you've done this, speak the key phrase again one more time and float the image again into his head. Keep doing this until he either leaves to get up or puts his head on your lap. If he leaves, follow him and do it again. If you begin to get a reaction from him, like putting his head in your lap or something else, congratulations, you've just communicated with your dog. Cats are a bit more stubborn, so it'll depend on the cat you're trying to communicate with. The image you're visualizing to him may have to be their favorite cat treat or something that they really like. If they're especially loving snuggle cats, then that's all the better. Use the same directions with the dog though, and who knows, you could be talking with them in no time. If you have smaller animals like avians and reptiles, you have to remember that the animal has a smaller brain. Their reception of pictures is apt to be slower and take longer. Remember, practice and patience is crucial to learning to do this. You'll probably start with minimal results, but if you're persistent, you will not only master the family pet chat, but other animals around you, like your friends' pets or pets in the car barking at you as you walk by and so on. One big question that everyone has around now, well, do they talk back? Yeah, they do. I communicate with my cat Toonie and he always tells me what he wants, whether it's food, water, or to go outside. I've actually read that horses are really good at communication as well. In an article I'll be posting in the comments of this video, a woman said that one time she had a horse specifically ask for a green apple, not a red one. Had to be green. Of course, she immediately got one and gave it to her, and they started communicating more. I know what you're probably thinking. Well, don't I have to be psychic to do this? Well, yes, but everyone is psychic, but most people don't really realize it. There's a gland in the brain called the pineal gland, which scientists have actually labeled the psychic gland. Through charging your third eye chakra, you begin to activate the pineal gland and your psychic connection can begin. Just remember to release the concept that you'll hear words and allow yourself to feel into your animal friend. So now we understand how to channel beings of lower consciousness, animals. For beings of higher consciousness, it's essentially the same thing, only reversed. In this scenario, we are like the animal and we are communicating with beings who know and understand far more than we do.
There are a plethora of channelings on the web that you can find. Some are really helpful, enlightening, and perceptive, and others are, well, not. It's important that when you're listening to or reading channelings, that you use discernment with what you're listening to. For the most part, you have no idea who or what is being channeled, and the only way you can really truly tell is through listening to what they are saying and finding truth in their words. If what is being said feels right, then go with that flow. If it does not, then you don't have to subject yourself to it. The final decision will have to come from you, though. Everyone channels differently as well. Sometimes channelings are quite boring, as the channeler will just lay down and connect internally and just let the information fly. Other times, the connection between the beings is stronger, and they'll walk around the room and talk and be quite lively. Then there's people like this.
It has been often said you are shifting your frequencies from one reality level to another, and this is so. But you are always shifting. You are shifting now. It is a natural thing that you do. You don't have to wait to shift. You've been shifting. You've been shifting all your lives. This is the way motion is created. This is what happens when you create the illusion of movement. The only way to create the illusion of movement is to actually shift from parallel reality to parallel reality that's slightly different than the reality you were in before. So you're shifting now, you're shifting now, you're shifting now, you're shifting now, you're shifting now. Through constantly shifting parallel realities. The idea is that you don't notice this so much because each new reality you shift to is very similar to the one you were existing in before. The idea of noticing the change is to create there to be a bigger difference between the parallel reality you shift to and the one that you were in before. That's when you know you're shifting. That's when you reveal to yourselves that you're always constantly shifting, and that learning to shift is not something you have to do. You do it automatically. You do it by your own second nature. It is natural to you to shift. This is the nature of how reality works. This is the nature of how change exists. So the question is not, can you shift? The question is, what will you shift to? And how different will you allow the shift to be based on your definitions and your belief systems of what you believe is possible for you? And this is why it is of paramount importance, as has been said this day, for you to really focus on the idea of the frequency, the vibrational frequency, the state of being that you prefer your reality to be, and thus then understand, based on what we have just said about shifting to parallel Earth realities, that when you change the vibration of your being, it's not that you change the world. It's that you take yourself, you shift yourself to a parallel Earth already existing on the vibratory level you have created within yourself.
Now, I gotta admit, that's actually pretty cool. And regardless of the excitement in the way he channels, the information is usually really good. For those who are trying to channel entities on your own, I ask that you use caution when proceeding forward, but also have fun. There is a possibility that you encounter a negative entity who may try and trick you or steer you off course. For the most part, even the bad entities will act as good ones, because humans generally fall for it. I don't want to scare anyone away from this though. The universe is full of amazing, positive beings of light who are here to help us in our time of need. If you connect with a being that just fills you up with love and light inside, then feel free to establish a conscious connection and communicate with this being. Sirians and Pleiadians especially are known for being very loving and helpful. Sirians come from Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. The Pleiadians come from the Pleiades, which is a cluster of stars through the constellation of Taurus. To learn more about this, I recommend reading the book Bringers of the Dawn, or listening to the audiobook, which is available on YouTube. A lot of the information in spirit science does actually come from channeling. A man named Drunvalo Melchizedek was visited by a being named Thoth, roughly 30 years ago, and worked with him personally for many years. We're going to be learning a lot about Thoth, who was the priest king of Atlantis for a very long time. He wrote about all of his experiences in the Emerald Tablets, which are ancient, unbreakable tablets which we discuss in Lesson 12. The whole Atlantis story came from him. I highly recommend, for those who are interested in learning more, check out The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life.
the first book Drunvalo published about his experiences with Thoth, as well as 25 years of scientific research that works harmonically with what Thoth taught him. There's actually a being channeled named Cryon of Magnetic Service. He talks a lot about worldly events and what's going on a global scale. What's interesting is that Cryon has been invited to the United Nations 7 times over the last 13 years. If the UN listens to channeling, maybe it deserves a little more credibility than we realize. On my YouTube, I'm going to be posting small snippets from various channels, but most of them from Crimson Circle. Crimson Circle started out in 1999 when a being named Tobias started communicating with Jeffrey Hope. There's actually a really cool story here. I can't go over all of the details, but Tobias was actually written about in the Bible, in the book of Tobit. This particular book was removed by the church in 1546 during the Council of Trent. Tobias was written as one of the main characters in that book, and Jeffrey and him began communicating more. In 1999, Crimson Circle was formed, a group dedicated to communicating with Tobias and other spirits. Up until recently, it was mostly Tobias who was channeled by the Crimson Council. Tobias then said that he wanted to return to Earth and live another lifetime because he missed physical reality and said his goodbyes. Today, Adamus St. Germain is channeled instead, and he's very lively. A little insight on Adamus, he is what you would call an Ascended Master. An Ascended Master is someone who underwent a process of spiritual transformation and moved into higher states of being beyond physical life. This will make way more sense in future lessons. Okay, I want to wrap up by going over a short list of definitions. During the channelings, you may hear some words that you're not familiar with. Amyo is absolute and pure trust in the self, the realization of the I am. Makyo are kind of like lies that you tell yourself, that take you away from the I am, like I'm not good enough or I can't do it yet. Kind of like the opposite of Amyo. Ascension is the process of going from one lifetime to the next while staying in the same physical body. Kaldra, you may hear this one a lot actually. Kaldra is the nickname that Tobias gave to Jeffrey. So if you ever hear Jeffrey say during a channeling, Kaldra doesn't want me to say this, but I will anyways, that's Adamus speaking through Jeffrey, about Jeffrey, whose nickname is Kaldra. Is that confusing? Shambra is the name that Adamus uses for the group of humans going through the awakening process. If you're watching the videos, you too are a Shambra. Shoud is a channeling, essentially. What you'll be watching are shouds, gatherings for communication with Adamus and other beings.
But yes, my dear Kata, love, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. You get so caught in it, so hurt by it, so deep into it. But for the most part, very, very few humans know what it's like to love themselves. They tolerate themselves. They have an awkward relationship with themselves, and they're still looking for love and still creating love with other people. But you know what's going to happen in this planet? I'm digressing, but I love to digress. What's going to happen on this planet is this planet has created love, shared love, and been in love. What happens next on this planet that's never been done anywhere else in all of creation is for the very beings who came here to start loving themselves. It's the next frontier. It's the next evolution. It's the next spiral, but a spiral that
Oh my, no markers? Oh.
Not that I'm so demanding. A simple cup of coffee, a marker is all I need to keep me happy. So you could say that your experiences have been like a big spiral and continuing to expand, continuing to experience and to share all that. But funny thing happens at a certain point in this awakening that you're going through. The spiral comes back into itself. And then you would have to create a hologram. We can't write it on the board like this, but you go through like a doorway into yourself. And you're never going to be alone in there because you found yourself, but you have an intimate understanding of everything and everyone else when you fall in love with yourself.
Big news. Patch to Row has officially made its way to Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and bookshop.org. The pre-order is live right now, and it'll be hitting shelves across the US on February 28th, 2026. If you've been following Patch to Row over the years, you'll know it's always been a journey of exploring how the tarot itself can evolve. But for this worldwide edition, we decided to take a step back and ground it in the traditional structure first, a classic 78 card deck with all the original symbolism intact. This version, simply called Patch Tarot, harmonizes everything from all previous editions into something new. It includes designs from the original deck, cards from Patch Tarot 3, and many other new ones that bring it closer to the classic form. Yet even as a classical tarot, Patch Tarot isn't just another deck. It's a full-on exploration of consciousness. Each card blends Kabbalah, alchemy, astrology, and universal wisdom into vibrant, living art. Thousands of people have already shared how Patch Tarot has brought clarity, synchronicity, and magic into their lives. Place your order now using the links in the description, or just search Patch Tarot on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or bookshop.org. You can also visit patchtarot.com to learn more. Your journey into the Spiritverse awaits.